Hi everybody, I'm Elise from the blog LePetiteSaintCrochet.com, and today we are talking all about granny squares and how to make them. I've teamed up with Cheryl from Cheryl Marie Handmade, who created these adorable cards. So when we make the little granny square, you will have something to do with it. You will not have to just toss it aside or throw it away, but you will actually have a little project to do, and I think they are so adorable. These are the 3 little card sets that Cheryl created, and I think they are absolutely so adorable. They are meant to be folded over and used as like a little greeting card, but what I decided to do was just add some backing paper from Molly Makes magazine because they were so beautiful, and I thought how much fun would it be to create these, and then I would like to find little frames to hang them up in my craft room. So the first one is like a little planter, and I think that's so cute. That is a 3 color change granny square, and then you have one with the wall hanging that has the little fringe hanging down, and finally one is the little pillow with the little kitty cat sitting on the top. I just think these are so cute, but I'm going to walk you through from a very beginner how to make a granny square. So these are the only tools that you are going to need to be able to make a granny square. You need some yarn and you need a hook. That's it. So don't get too worried about if you have the right size hook and the right size yarn. Right now, if you're pretty close, that's good enough. Granny squares don't have to be completely 100% accurate. We're not making gauge here. Yes, we would like to fit it on our little card here, but really it's okay. I am using a 3.5 millimeter hook. This is a Furls crochet hook. I love them. And I have my worsted weight. This is my Barocco vintage yarn. That's what I have. That's what we're going to start with. Use what you have. The first thing we are going to learn how to do, and what we need to know how to do to make a granny square, is start with a slip stitch. Now these are actually quite simple to do. They're not hard at all. So you're going to take your yarn here. You're going to make a loop. I like to just do it around these 2 fingers. Make a loop, and then I cross them, bring it around, bring it through. So I have it like this. It's almost like a little pretzel shape here. And I just pull this through. And that makes my slip stitch, so that I'm going to be able to put my crochet hook in here and tighten that up. So your slip stitch should be able to close quite easily, and then you can just pull it out. I'm going to show you one more time. I'm going around these 2 fingers, I'm crossing, then I'm taking from the front of my fingers, pulling this through, pulling this loop here like this. And you should be able to pull it very easily. It should, that's why it's a slip stitch, it slips. I can pull it that way, and I can pull it that way. That way you know you've got your slip stitch. Now that we have our yarn slip stitched onto our hook, we need to know how to hold the yarn. I'm going to show you how to do it. There are probably different methods, but this is the method that works the best for me. And what I do, make sure you're not working with your tail here, but you are working with your working yarn. So I've got my hand here. I take my pinky finger and I wrap it around here, and I take this and wrap my index finger underneath, and I hold it like this. Okay? Now I'm holding the little knot here on the slip stitch because I feel like that's the easiest way to be able to control this. And you're just going to have to practice this because this takes time to get your tension right. So I'm going to show you again. I'm taking my hand palm up, wrapping it around my pinky, and then turning my hand over and bringing my index finger underneath, bringing my palm back this way. And you can just keep doing it until you have the right tension. So you want to be able to hold on to this little knot here with your slip stitch, but not be too close. And honestly, this just takes time. This just takes practice to be able to get that tension right so that you feel really comfortable. So just keep practicing with this, and it will come over time. It literally becomes automatic when you do it enough times. Now we are ready to chain. I've decided to do the chain 5 method rather than the magic ring, which is in Cheryl's pattern, just because I feel like it's easier for beginners to do. So we've got our hook, we've got our yarn, and we have our slip stitch. So what we're going to do, I'm going to hold on to my little knot here because I feel like it gives me better control. I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to grab from underneath the yarn and pull it through. The best tip I can give to beginners is to not make this too tight, because then you really are not going to help yourself if you're too tight. Looser is better right now. You can always get tighter when you need to, but just try to keep it loose. So we're going to do that again. That was our chain. That was our first chain. So we're chaining 5. So that was 1. Again, I'm bringing it underneath my yarn and pulling through just like that. That's the second chain. We are going to move to our third chain. Remember, underneath and pull. Now at this point you may need to readjust your tension with holding your yarn, and that's just fine. Just do that. Now we are going to again come underneath. That is our 4th chain. There we go. So I can see them. They're little V shapes. So 1, 2, 3, and then there's that little one right there. And then come up underneath, and we have chain 5. So we have 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we have the loop on our crochet hook. So the pattern states that we are to chain 5 and join with a slip stitch to the first chain to form a loop. So that is this little circle right here. It's a little bit hard to see, but that is what we are creating right now. So we've got our chain 5 here. So we're going to get our yarn back wrapped around our fingers, and if you look, we have our 5 V's. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that little one up there is 5, and we have our loop. So I am going to go right in between that V. So basically you're going to split that V in half. You're going to put your crochet hook in there, and what we're going to do is we're going to take hold of our yarn. Remember, we're coming up underneath the yarn, and we're going to pull it through the middle of the V. And then we have this loop here, and we're going to pull it through there. Now we have joined our chains with a slip stitch. So now we have our 5 chains joined, and we've got this working tail here in the front. You don't have to do this. I like to put it in the back. I don't like it there, so I just put it towards the back. Now the pattern says that we are to chain 3. So that's exactly what we're going to do right here. I'm just going to come back up under 1, 2, and 3. So now the pattern states that we are to do 2 double crochets. I'm going to come up underneath. I'm going to go in the center of this chain 5. Do your best to find it. And then I'm going to grab the yarn, and now I have 3 loops on my hook. Now I'm going to come back up under the yarn, and I kind of hold it right up underneath to kind of give me a little stability here, because if I'm just going like this, I'm holding on to this with my middle finger and my thumb. I'm holding on to that chain 5 loop. Come up underneath, and I'm going to go through the first 2 loops and bring it up. So now I have 2 loops on my crochet hook. Come up underneath again and pull through both of those. So now I have a chain 3 and I have a double crochet. At this point, I like to kind of pull that, and I kind of pull this a little bit and get those close together. Don't worry, this is not going to break. You can pull on this and it's just fine. So now you're starting to see that there's a real defined hole here, and that's one of the reasons why it's really important to try to be loose when you are crocheting for the first time. You can always get tighter as you go. We're going to do that again. We have another double crochet, so we're going to take our crochet hook, come up under, so we have our loop, and then we have our working yarn over, and we're going to come into our circle here. We're going to pull the working yarn through. We have 3 loops on our hook. Then I'm going to come back up under, pull through both of those loops, and then go back up under and pull through the last 2. So now I have a chain 3 and I have 2 double crochet. Now I am going to chain 2. This creates our little corners, 1 and 2, and we're going to come back up under, because now we need to make 3 double crochets. So we come back underneath, we go back into that circle. We're going to keep working into this circle for this round. So we come through 2, come through 2, then We wrap underneath, go through the circle, pull the loop, and you have 3 loops. Go through the first 2, and then go through the second 2. Then we can kind of pull this, make sure we got plenty of room. Now we need 1 more because we have 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet. So come up underneath, through the loop, grab it, grab the yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2. So now we have this cluster here, we have our chain 2, our second cluster here, and now we need to chain 2, 1 and 2. We're creating another corner. Come underneath, go through the circle, pull, grab and pull through. We have 3 loops, go through 2 and pull through the next 2. So that's our first double crochet. In this one, remember to wrap the yarn around first, go through the circle, pull through. We have 3 loops. I'm going to go through the first 2, go through the second 2. And then let's make 1 more. So now we've made our 3rd double crochet in this group. So we're going to chain 2 again. We're going to wrap the yarn around, go into the circle, pull. We have 3 loops. Go through 2, go through the other 2. Sometimes you pull this a little bit just to give yourself room to work into that circle because it starts to get a little crowded here. We're going to go underneath, into the circle, grab your yarn. You have 3 loops. Go through 2 and go through 2. So now we have 2 double crochets here, 1 and 2. And then we're going to do our last one because you're creating 4 of these little clusters. So we have the first cluster here in our chain 2, second cluster here, chain 2, third cluster here, chain 2, and now we have our 4th cluster. But the one thing I want to go ahead and show you right now is, say I made a mistake back here. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I made a mistake. Look what you can do. Just pull it out. This is the beauty of crochet. This is something that is so wonderful. I'm going to pull all the way out to my last cluster. And then I can just put my yarn, my hook, right back in there. So you can pull out, it's called frogging. You can frog all the way to where you know that you're correct. Like, okay, I know I was correct to here. So that is fantastic. And I can just go ahead and follow the pattern from that point. Chain 2, go through and make my last cluster here. And here's how we are going to finish this square. So between every cluster, we have a chain 2. And so we are going to do that. We're going to chain 2 again. And then what we're going to do is we're going to identify that first chain 3 that we did. This is the very first one right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come right up underneath there. We're slip stitching. So we're going to grab, I'm going to pull it through here and pull it through there. And now I have completed my first little round. I'm going to get my scissors here and I'm going to give myself enough room to be able to weave in my end. So I'm going to cut right there. Now I still have my hook here. Make sure you grab that yarn that you were working with. So what we're going to do here is I am going to grab it and pull it all the way through. Okay, just tighten that up. So now we have this pretty little square. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to get out a yarn needle. And a yarn needle is just, it's a larger needle and it has a nice big eye here so that you can weave our ends in. Weaving our ends in, just do it after every round. People get in a bad habit, I'm sorry to say, by waiting till the very end, and I'm telling you, just get into the habit of doing it in the beginning. I like to start with the yarn that we had when we started. This was our tail, and we just go ahead and thread, and then all you're going to do is, you see these little stitches right here. I'm going to just go up underneath a few of them, pull it through. Good thing is you're really not going to see this. But this is an important step to take. Then instead of just going right next, I kind of backtrack one stitch and then go back. Make sure you're doing this on the back side of your work. Okay, this is your front side, and it will get easier to be able to tell what your front and back side of your work is. So now that you've gone underneath a few of those stitches, we're just going to, I like to clip it pretty close. Just clip it, and then we're going to do that with the next tail that we have here. But like I said before, if you just do this after every single round, you are not going to be left with so many tails that you will have to weave in. It just is not fun. So for this one, this is actually where our chain 3 is, and what I'm going to do is I just kind of gently go down those chain 3. And then I don't pull it super tight, because if I pull it, it's going to distort my little square here. So I just pull it enough that it doesn't change. And here comes Olive to check everything out. And then I do the same thing. I might actually even go in the opposite direction, but I could go in the same direction. I'm going under about 4 little stitches here, and making sure that I keep my shape, and then go back 1 and go through. And now I have woven all my ends in, and I can trim that, and we have our pretty, look how pretty. Look how pretty. It looks so pretty. Now you may notice where we started this chain 3 looks a little bit different than all of the other clusters that we have done. Don't worry about it. You're not going to notice it once we add our new color. So now we're actually at the fun part, and we get to change colors. Now this is actually really simple. I'm going to use this mustardy yellow. I think it's so pretty. And we're going to do basically the same thing. We are going to make our slip knot, because this is how we change colors. I'm going to go ahead and get my hook. So what we're going to do is we're going to identify this chain 2 space right here. It's pretty obvious where it is. And we are going to go into that space. We're just going to pull our yarn through, and then we're going to pull it through our loop. And then we just give our little tail a tug here, and we have connected our new color. And so we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3 like we did before. Now we're going to do 2 double crochet into our space here. So remember, we just go underneath. We have a loop here. We go inside that space, grab our yarn, pull through 2 loops, and pull through 2 loops. So now we have 2 stitches here. Then we go underneath, we go through our space, and then we pull through 2 and pull through 2. So we actually have our first little cluster right here, and we're going to chain 2 because we're making another corner. So we're going to go back through, and we're going to make 3 double crochet. Let me get a little bit more yarn. 1, 2, and 3. The next thing we're going to do is we're just going to chain 1. And what that's going to help us to do is to help us go all the way across and get over here without pulling. And it's also going to create our next space for if you wanted to move on to the 3rd round and change colors again. So we're going to go ahead and do 3 more double crochet into the next space here. This is after those 3 double crochet that we did before on the previous round. Double crochet underneath, go through the hole, pull the loop, go through 2 and go through 2. So we've made 2 here. We need 1 more. And then we're going to chain 2 because we need to make our little corner turn here. We're going to double crochet 3 more times. 1, 2, and 3. This is when the granny square just starts to come alive, and it's so pretty. Okay, so we have our 3. Now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to go into our next little space here. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to chain 2, 1 and 2. And then do 3 more double crochet right here. Now, what you may notice right now is that I am at the point where you may have already gotten to this point, you may not be at this point yet, depending on where you started your square. But right here is where that chain 3, and so it almost looks like there's 2 together and then a space and then 1 by itself and then the space here. But basically all that is that this was our chain 3 when we first started, and these were the first 2 double crochet. So once we actually make our way all the way around, you're not going to notice that that one looks a little bit different because the rest of them are 3 double crochets all neatly together. Don't worry about that. Sometimes I just hate the way that looks, but once you actually complete the square, you will not notice it at all. So now we've made 3 double crochet. I'm going to single crochet, and I'm going to identify, here's our space. It's not there. It's 1, 2, 3. And we're going to double crochet again. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2, 1 and 2. And then double crochet 3 more times. And now we still need to do 1 more chain, 1 chain, and then this was our original 3 chain here that we did when we started our new color, and I am going to just go right here, and I'm going to slip stitch to connect them. So there we go. I'm going to trim off our little piece here, and I'm going to pull this yarn all the way through. So look how pretty that little square is. It's just gorgeous, and I am going to weave in my ends, and then I'm going to attach this to my card. So now you can see that I have finished 2 little granny squares here, and I'm going to attach it to my little card. I'm just going to add a little bit of hot glue here and attach it here. It's just going to look so darling. Now, the next thing that you could do is continue to follow the pattern if you wanted to make the 3 color change. So you have 1, 2, and 3. You do the exact same thing. It is the exact same process, and you can just keep going and going and going. Actually, you can make an entire granny square blanket from this that you just keep going around and around and around and around. And some people do that for big scrap blankets, and they're just beautiful. So the final thing I want to show you how to do is just to add that little fringe to your granny square. So I've cut these little strips of yarn, and I would say they're probably about 5 to 6 inches long. You probably don't even need them that long. But what I did was, you can see on the edge of your granny squares here, the little V's. And what you're going to do is you're just going to stick your hook underneath one, and we're going to just make a loop like this with your yarn. And then I'm just going to pull this through like this. And then I'm just going to grab both of the strands and pull it through. And then we have our little strand here. I'll show you again. I'm just going to fold it in half, go to the next stitch, which is right next to it, go under both of the loops. I'm going to grab that, pull it under, and then grab both of these strands and pull them all the way through. And I'll show you one last time, and then you just go all the way across. Fold it in half, go under the loop, pull it through, and then pull it through again. Now I like to leave them long enough so that afterwards all I have to do is I just get my scissors and trim them off however long I want them to be. I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial today. I love granny squares so very much, and I can't wait to share next time with you all of the different ways, all of the different projects, some of my favorite granny square projects that you can do. Once you master this, you can move on to all of the different types of granny squares that are out there, and there are a lot. So I can't wait to share that all with you next time. I'm planning on putting out a few more videos than I typically would, just because there's really nothing nothing else to do, if you're watching this in real time, we are kind of in a lockdown situation, in a quarantine situation because of the coronavirus. I just thought, you know what? To me, Granny Squares are comforting. They are something that to me, they are the comfort food of the crafting world. I just think they're so beautiful, and there's so many different beautiful color combinations. I'm going to share that with you next, and then the next video after that, I want to show you my favorite ways to join Granny Squares together, because there's a lot of different ways. But this is going to be a little Granny Square series, and I really hope you enjoy it. I would love if you would subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and if you would hit that little bell notification. That will let you know anytime I upload a video, and especially now, since maybe I'll be uploading a little bit more frequently, you might want to get those notifications. Well, they may be over here or over here. I'm not really sure. Always, if you would please like this video, and if you would please give me a comment. I would love to know where you are in the world, what's going on where you are, how are you doing. Even though we are all in social distancing, that doesn't mean that we have to be completely isolated from one another. Thankfully, there is YouTube, there is Instagram and Facebook, and all these ways that we can stay connected, and I love connecting with you all. I hope you all stay safe, and I will see you next time.